Hey guys, welcome back. I got so sick of sitting around in the house doing paperwork that I decided that I just had to get out and do something today. It was 8 degrees this morning, so that's the coldest morning we've had yet this fall and winter. And I decided to come and do a little fence patching in the woods, and we'll just kind of, I guess, call the video Fencing 101. And when I say 101, that's what I mean. This is just a cheap, basic, good old-fashioned Appalachian way of patching fence in the woods. And I had absolutely no intentions of doing a video today, but I got up here and I saw several interesting things, and I thought maybe I'd kind of show you the way that we do a few little things. And for you guys that have got experience building fence, you'll know that this is not necessarily the best way out there. You can buy equipment and do better jobs, but this is definitely a cheap way for you guys that have little homesteads that don't want to have to spend a lot of money and still get something done. And this is the way that we do it, and it's worked for us for years and years. And I just kind of wanted to bring you along and kind of show you a couple of little different things. I had something really interesting to show you here, and I'll get the camera there and we'll go down and take a little look. Okay, this is something that I wanted to show you guys. Right around 1910, my grandpa was 8 or 10 years old when the road was built through our farm. The guys that built that road cut stones to pave the road with, and I thought it was really interesting. These stones are scattered all over this section of our farm, and they would come and get these square stones with horses and sleds and haul them down the hollow. And you can kind of see my greenhouses through there. The road is just on this side of them. So they would sled these rocks down there to that road. And my grandpa remembered this because he was a young kid and he had a goat and a dog. And while those men were here pulling these stones down, he would take that goat and dog and hook them up to his own little sled and come over and play around in the hollow and haul stuff. And he said that the dog would always give out first, and when it did, it would slip its harness and go back to the house. So that was the end of his sled pulling. But I thought it was really interesting, the work that went into this. And there's some remnants where they cut squares out, and the road down through here in front of the greenhouse is so much better than on up our road where it wasn't done. We never get a pothole down on this end. There's just no sinking. There's no give to it at all, because these stones were all cut and laid before the blacktop and all was put on top later on. But I thought that was really interesting, and I wanted to show you that. This kind of gives you an example of the work that men used to do. Okay, this is the reason we've got to keep a good fence on top of this ridge line. We own on both sides, and the cattle will be on both sides, but we have to build a pretty good fence along this rock cliff because we have had cattle to go down over the edge, and we've actually lost a few that over the years that have actually gone down over the cliff. So there's a 30-foot cliff that runs the length of this fence up this hollow, and we haven't had cattle on this side for a long time, and I'm wanting to try to get this fixed up because, believe it or not, they just get out and get to wandering even though there's nothing to eat on that side. They like to investigate, and sometimes that gets them into trouble. So we are trying to get this fence repaired so that that doesn't happen. Here's something I found quite interesting also for you. Just to give you an idea, you know, barbed wire, the design of barbed wire hasn't changed that much over the last 150 years. We're beside of an old chestnut oak tree here that I was putting some new wire up, and I noticed smack dab in the middle of this chestnut oak is a strand of barbed wire coming right out of the center. Now, in my 46 years, it doesn't seem like these trees have grown a bit. So, to give you an idea how long it took that tree, give you an idea of how big this tree is. How long did it take that tree to get that big for that wire to be right out of the center of it? There's been about 4 or 5 generations of people that's built wire right down along this ridge line. So that's pretty amazing. All right, here's a place where we replaced a couple of wires that were down between these two little trees, and I just wanted to show you this, and it's something that matters. Instead of just running the wire to the tree and steepling it to the tree, we always cut extra length and twist it onto the corresponding wire that goes to the next tree. And that way you actually have 2 anchor points in case we have a lot of trouble with deer running into the wire and they'll pull that steeple loose. And if that happens, it still is attached to the next wire. So we never just steeple the wire to the tree. We always do a kind of a secondary attachment there. So that's just a little trick. Okay, here we had an old oak tree to fall several years ago, and the limbs and the brush were bad enough up until right this year that it pretty well made it undoable for cattle to be able to get through. But I came up to check it today, and I could see that they had rotted away quite a bit. So we attached a wire here, and of course it wasn't quite long enough there to reach to the oak tree. So they make tools that you can hook 2 wires together, but I want to show you the old hillbilly way that we do it, and it works. And very rarely that will not come apart unless it's hit or another tree falls on it. And we'll just take a pair of fencing pliers, and I wanted to video this, but I really didn't come prepared, so I'll just show you the result here. But you hook you clamp the 2 wires together with your fencing pliers right in the center of them, leave about 8 to 10 inches on either end of wire, and then you twist one end one direction here, and you come over and you twist the other end the other direction, and you can usually get that tight enough until you can tighten it with steeples at one end or the other. So that's a good cheap way of hooking wires together. And if you're in the woods where you don't want to have to carry a lot of equipment with you, which I am today, then that works really well. And we have fence that is fastened together that way all over this farm. Okay guys, just to illustrate, I have worked all morning here with the very basic of tools. Of course I have a work pouch on with fence fasteners and steeples, but you can actually get by with just a good fence stretcher, and that is an old homemade fence stretcher there, but you can get there are any number of fence stretchers that you can get. A pair of fencing pliers, a hammer, and just an old roll of wire that we had taken some fence down somewhere else. But I have managed to patch probably a 1/4 mile of fence here today with just those basic tools. And if you're not building new fence, if you're just repairing old fence, you can sure get by with the basics. All right, I want to show you how that we built the gates in the woods. We'll just nail some wire to a tree there on one side, and a lot of times we'll just cut a limb. This happens to be a treated 2x2, but you can just cut a limb, steeple it to the center there, and then we'll come over here. We'll do the same thing. You can cut an old limb or use a 2x2 and wrap the wire around it, steeple it, and then a loop at the top, at the bottom, a steeple in the top to keep the wire from coming off the top, and you've got you a ready-made gate, cheap. All right guys, I guess that'll do us here for today. I kind of got done what I wanted to do here, and I'm cold and I'm hungry, so I'm ready to go back to the house, see if I can't get me some lunch. It's way past my lunchtime, so that comes first. But I just kind of wanted to bring you along. I'll take you on a little tour around this ridge and kind of show you what we're fencing around, and we'll catch up with you guys on the next video.
center of winter, beast oak, slowly lowering down rows of steep steps leading below, and through his soul they flow, making his way and avoiding the day, thinking about things they might say, parading the terrain of your brain. The steps collect upon ancient remain, recognized like something you've seen, but you can't quite connect the strings attaching these things. So now that I know you, this world keeps deteriorating underneath the raining down, mannequins panicking on the ground, and this interesting addiction I found. Scratching his head, dragging down the last steps, quietly echoing out behind his cold blue breath. But down there it occurs that the demons do lurk, looking for souls, holding only whispers, eventually cursing walls of earth we traverse.